Hello Quilt Escape fans. I finally have the Deer Creek Lodge block back ready to go. I've done it in the two sizes you're going to need depending on which quilt you're making. I have the 12.5-inch size, and I'm going to step here out of the way so Drew can show you the larger block, which is 27.5 inches. And that is quite a difference from the 12.5. Be patient with me, Drew. I'm going to do this. It was off script, but I just want to show them, you know, this scale to that scale just so they can see. It's quite a difference. The amazing thing is this block and this block are made exactly the same. There's only one different feature. This door down the middle and the large lodge is wider than the two sides. In this one, all three of these pieces are the same size. So that's the only difference. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to call this the divide and conquer block. There's really not any special quote techniques to learn other than here you're going to join this chimney section from here up and over to the roof. And when you do that, you'll find out that this is not a straight alignment. It's actually a diagonal alignment. So that might be new for you. I'm also going to show you how to pad this door and give it a three-dimensional look. That might be something different for you. The first section that I'm going to show you is actually the roof section. And if you don't mind, I'm going to put this down for a minute and just show you what I want you to do. Okay. You actually start with a rectangle, then all the sizes. Before I go forward, let me just share this. Your document will be at the Quilt Escape website. You want to download this. This is 7 pages of detailed instructions. The first page will be the 12.5-inch block and all the pieces and parts, how to cut them. Then what's going to happen is I'm going to break it up into sections like I talked about. It'll be a divide and conquer. We'll make the chimney section, and I'm going to move this down to show you what I'm talking about. So here's the chimney section. There's really nothing rocket science about it, but you'll notice that it's the two little chimneys and the in-between background pieces. Then we'll do the roof section, and then we'll start on the window section. And all the details of how to do this block in big and little are in this document, in addition to how to put it together, the big pieces. So we'll get there later on in another video. Right now I want to jump into how to make this lodge block, and I'll show you what we're going to do first. I've actually made the chimney section. I'm going to flip it over. I want Drew to zoom in real quick. What's different here is this is the only section that I've asked you to press the seams open, right here, where the chimneys join. So that's going to be important when I go to join it onto the roof. Notice on the roof I talk about taking your square, putting your diagonal line from corner to corner, and now the only thing to do here is to sew on that line. So we're going to actually do that right now and trim it off, and you'll have your roof section. Okay? So what you want to do here is you want to start with a little tag, a little folded piece of fabric, because I'm going to ask you to sew from corner to corner. Okay? And when you do that, you don't want your thread to get pulled down into the machine, so we're going to sew on the tag and right onto the fabric. Now, when I have a big piece like this, I sometimes can do this. Do you see me folding it around? I can I can bring it around, not even take it out, and just go right to the next piece. Then you'll cut the thread in between. But this is a big section, that's how I'm getting away with that. I'm going to use my little thread cutter right here and just cut that thread in between there. There you go. So now it's open like this. We're going to come on back. Let me get this little tag off. And we're going to trim off about 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now you're seeing what I'm doing. I'm just eyeballing it. No big deal in my opinion. So, because the seam allowance is not where the accuracy is. The accuracy is the drawn line. Okay, got to put more pressure. When I'm sitting down and cutting, I definitely don't have the strength that I really normally have. Okay, there's my trash can. Okay, let's press this now. And we're going to go over to the iron, Drew. So you're going to switch over here real quick. I want to show you my best tip of the day, really, is to use Best Press, which I have put into this spritzer bottle. I like the way that works for me. And anytime I have a new seam like this and I want it to lay flat, that's the best way to do it. You press or you spritz your Best Press on and then press it down. It'll lay really nice for you. The other thing about the Best Press, and I do want to talk a minute about that, is anytime you're working with skinny pieces like these little pieces, let's go ahead and turn them over. You now have these two sections. And you're going to be joining that diagonal seam up there, which is the tricky part. Well, let's scoot down here. Okay. And then we're going to add the 13-inch roof beam to the bottom. Oh, that's not the right one, obviously. I had it over here. I'm not sure what happened to it. Well, if this is too long, we'll cut it, obviously. And this one's too long. Maybe I knocked it on the floor. Okay, I had pre-cut that to 13, so that'll be 13 inches long and go across the bottom here, and this will come down this way. And right now I'm going to focus more on that, and I want to show you how you're going to get this alignment. So, we're going to get our pins out. Now, it didn't look too hopeful there for a minute. Where's my little mouse? We'll get Best Press out of the way. And we are going to drop down 1/4 inch on the chimney piece. And then we're going to drop down 1/4 inch here on the roof. And this is how you're going to align it. Then I'm going to push the pin back. So you see me with sticking it right through, and then I'm going to push the pin that way. Now I'll come down here. First, these two alignments have to be in place before you work the rest of the block. So drop down 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch here, and then line that up. Now that is sitting up too high. Not sure why. There. Because the top of the edges still have to be even. Push the pin back. And then go ahead and pin in the middle. I'll put a couple of pins in here to hold it. And a couple of pins down this way. Alright, we're almost there. So pinning is important. Not going to tell a fib here. We want to pin it so that it lines up correctly, edge to edge. This is all crosswise grain, so it's going to stretch, it's going to move a little bit. Alrighty. let's go ahead. Let me get a sip of something here. Let's go ahead and sew this. I'm going to move that out of our way right now. And put your tag down. As we're starting off, this is a scant quarter. All these seams are a scant quarter. So on my machine, I have a 1/4 inch line. And instead of covering the 1/4 inch line, I'm going to make sure that my pieces are laying just inside of that 1/4 inch line. Then I'm getting a scant quarter. And what that does, it allows me to push the seams to one side. Because believe it or not, just the art of sewing it and the thread width and so on can take up a little bit, just a little bit, but enough that it can sometimes make a difference. And I will just say, that's probably the only difficulty I see in this block, is that there's so many little pieces. So take your time. Now with the large one, there are a lot of pieces, the same amount of pieces, but obviously they're a lot larger scale. So I would tell you that the bigger block is going to be easier to piece. This is going to be a little trickier just for that purpose, because they are smaller. Oh, nice, nice, nice. Now, I like this seam. This came out really well. That's just right on the money. This one, however, is jogged over just a tiny bit. What I would prefer to do is to unsew right here and redo my pin, so that, and that does not mean I don't need to unsew all this. I'm just going to take about 1 inch out, and I'm going to shift it a little bit and get that diagonal line up. That's important to me. So the other one, my pin's right on. This one, my pin is not quite where I want it. And I'm glad it happened, in the fact that you will see these kind of things go on all the time, as fabric has its give and has movement. So don't be alarmed by it. Now, I want to take you to the window section. In the window section of this, and I want to take it back up here to the big block here so you can see it. This is your window section. I'm going to give you the instructions. I'm going to talk about cutting a 1 inch strip here and then sub-cutting it into 2 3/4 inch lengths. But here's a faster way of doing it. If you cut the 1 inch strip, the 2 inch strip, and you multiply the number of windows you make by 3, that's going to be 12 inches. I cut these strips at 14. I know I'm going to have plenty of room for a subcut. This is just to facilitate the process. Now, remember I was talking about best press. This is where it's so helpful. This 1 inch skinny piece of fabric, the smaller the strip, the less width to it, the more stretch it has. So you really want to best press all these pieces before you sew. That's the best tip I can give you. So we're sewing a 1 inch to a 2 inch, and you want to do all that. I've already done it, and I'm just going to sew this and show you what I'm talking about. This is just going to make this a less fussy section, so it becomes a strip set. And you're just going to sew the whole strip set. I don't want you to press it at this point. What I want you to do is to subcut it. So this is when you take your ruler and we look at our directions. And I'm going to confirm this on the directions. I did read it before I started, but I don't want to make a mistake now. And that would not be fun. So here we go. So the window, which is letter F on the page, is 2 by 2 3/4, which is what I said. So my subcut will be 2 3/4. So I'm going to simply take the ruler now and I'm going to subcut this. I'll get a straight edge, and believe me, I've allowed so much extra that it shouldn't be any issue at all. I have plenty of room to get a straight edge, get rid of that, and come down 2 3/4. So there's my 2, then I'll march over 3, and I'm going to need 4 of these to make my windows. So that's all there is to this. And I would suggest just cut one at a time so you don't mess this up. Because if you cut 2 and you make a mistake, then you've wasted too much fabric. So there's your 2 3/4. I always pull it back down so I'm starting at 1 again. I don't like to start from the opposite or in the middle of a piece like that. See how that's hanging over? I'd rather it come back and I measure from that whole number. And 2 3/4 again, back off. That 3/4, I move that fabric, so you gotta be careful. This ruler, I'm actually getting a bonus piece. I can see that with 14 inches, I'm gonna actually get a bonus piece. Ha! Which is nice in case I have a flub up. I might as well cut it, right? 2 3/4, there it is. So there you go, so I actually have 5. Not that you're going to use that, but if you like one piece better than the other, that's fine. Now, to finish these 4, at this point, you would go to the iron. So we're going to walk over here to the iron, Drew. I'm going to use best press again. And best press, whenever you have these little pieces, I'm going to lay them out up here, and I'm going to spritz them with this. They've already had it once. But this is how you get it to turn over. It'll turn over better and lay flatter. I have steam. I'm not worried about the steam distorting it because I've got that magic sizing in there. So that's going to hold them down. And now I have 4 little windows. So you can see, I'll put these out here for Drew to zoom in on. Look at that. So there they are. There's your 4 little windows. So this would be the bottom of the window section. That's what you're doing right there. And then just to save some time, you can take a long piece, which I still have another long piece. I want to make sure I'm not doing the wrong one. I know I cut one of these, but I'll be doggone if I know which one it was. Alright, that's okay. So now we're going to go over here and let's do this like a log cabin. Put this piece, and again this had best press, put this down, face right sides up, put your tag down, put the needle in, and then what I want you to do is just drop these on here just like you were doing a log cabin. Okay, this will not take much time at all, and you'll have the sides of the window frame on. So just keep rolling them right down here, and you can butt them right next to one another. Makes for easy cutting. Okay, and here we go again. Right sides together, put it down, keep feeding it through, and here you go. So this process can be streamlined. You could make each one individually if you like, or you can do it the way I'm doing it right now. Okay? Alright, so then you're going to cut in between. And I am just going to take the time to cut 2 of them off of here to finish them for you. I'm going to cut in between, just like this. Okay, I'll put these 2 over here and just set them aside. Okay, and here we go. That's one side of your window frame. So I'm going to let Drew zoom in on that. And then you're going to put your other piece down, just like you did this, just like a log cabin, to finish this off. So now you would take and put another piece down. Let me see if this is my 13. By Jovi, I found it. Okay. So we need to put another piece down, and I'll just do one for the example to show. So you'd put another piece down. You're going to turn this right sides on top of it, and you're going to start sewing. And I prefer to have it tagged, because invariably if I start sewing right on the piece, those first few stitches won't lock. That's just something I've learned over a period of time, that it's better to have it a little tag. So there you go. And now we'll just get rid of these little pieces and just go ahead and trim this off, and we'll have a finished window. So this is the way you can streamline this process, not wanting you to work as hard. And of course now you'd go over to the iron and use your best press, and this is what each little window section would look like, just like this. So you'd take two of these and you'd have another piece that goes in between, and that's section B right here. And I'm just going to put it on the little board for you to see it, because that might be helpful. Obviously it may not lay down as flat as I want it to because I haven't pressed that. This section would join the window sections in between. So you've made your window section. The next section you're going to make, I call it the lodge, is this interior part. And we're going to focus on the door section right now. The last section is very simple. It's grass, a stone, and a path. Very, very simple. Okay, so what I want to show you is the door, because I did something different with the door. And I actually padded the door. And I put a little piece of batting back behind it, which for some reason I'm now not seeing it over here. Oh my goodness gracious. Well, suffice to say, I put a piece of batting. I've got this piece like this, and I cut a piece of batting to fit in here. Then the idea is to do some top stitching through the batting and give it a three-dimensional effect. And that's the only thing that's different that you might not notice from just looking at the video. I've also done that to the large door as well. Really, that's all there is to the lodge. Then you're going to join your chimney section to the roof section, to the windows and the lodge and this piece. And one of the other things that I have done that I think is going to be very helpful as you go along in the instructions, I've given you the measurement of each section. So you're going to know if you're on track or not. So pay attention to that, pay attention and measure as you go along, and I think you'll come out just fine. You'll wind up with a 13-inch block with seam allowance, and this one, the large one, you'll wind up with 27 1/2 inch, and that will be your completed block. So that's all there really is to constructing the lodge. I'm going to see you back here shortly, and I'm going to show you how to piece this, which is the Flying Geese border and this final 2-inch border. Now I'm walking around here. Drew's going to have a hard time with me right now, but I chose to put this extra border out here so that I wouldn't be sending it to the quilter with seams all on the outside. So we're going to talk about that in the next video. Thank you. We'll see you next time.